In this video, we're going to compare a right angle die grinder with a 4.5-inch angle grinder. The focus is going to be taking away a small concentrated area to see which one's quicker and lays a better quality surface. Now, this all started with an argument at work. Me and a coworker were going back and forth as to which tool was going to be more beneficial during strain gauge application on one of our electric wheel loaders. I had some good points for the angle grinder, and my coworker had some really good points for the right angle die grinder. So today, I wanted to do a direct comparison to see which one's better. Now, in order to stay safe during this testing, I'm going to be using hearing protection, safety glasses, a face shield, and a respirator. Now, I actually have this part that came off of a wheel loader in the field, so it's going to have the exact paint that we're wanting to take off. We're going to take off about a 2-inch diameter circle for each tool to remove. That should give us enough room for the strain gauge application onto the steel surface. Again, each tool is going to be directly compared for the time it takes to remove the paint and the quality of the surface that's left. First up is the right angle die grinder. This is going to be pneumatically controlled, but for the trip, we're probably going to get a battery powered one. But this testing should shed light as to if it's going to be beneficial or not. Now, some of the big benefits for the right angle die grinder are it's small and it's going to be easy to travel with. We're going to be flying overseas and performing this work on a loader in the field. So small would be beneficial. The second big benefit is it has a very concentrated pad. So the area of material removal at any one moment is going to be much reduced from a 4.5-inch angle grinder. So you can really concentrate and not waste a lot of extra time. The third big benefit for this, because of its smaller size in comparison to the 4.5-inch angle grinder, is its ease of use. You're going to be able to fit the right angle die grinder into some areas that the 4.5 angle grinder just isn't going to go. It should work out quite well. And the fourth big benefit is the twist lock mechanism for each of the pads for the die grinder is a lot quicker than having to take off the arbor nut and exchange each of those 4.5-inch angle grinder flap discs. Now, a couple of big cons for the right angle die grinder is it is potentially slower than the 4.5-inch angle grinder, less torque, and therefore not as quick material removal, which in the field, time is money. And the second thing with that reduced size of your working pad, you're probably going to be going through a lot of those discs and changing them out frequently. But we'll see. You can see in this testing that it's taking quite a bit of material off quickly. This was a little bit quicker than I originally anticipated, so it might be a good option. It also left a really nice finish on the steel itself with no divots or dings, and just a really good consistent surface condition. What I really like and kind of knew up front was that there really was no wasted paint removal around the concentrated area that we're trying to hit with this die grinder. I doubt the angle grinder is going to be able to do that. Now, the angle grinder we're using is going to be 120 volt plugged into an outlet. It's going to be a DeWalt 4 amp angle grinder, and I have been using this angle grinder for years. The ones we will use in the field are going to be battery operated, so it's a little bit different, but this testing should really help us make a decision. Now, the big benefit of the grinder are it's very powerful and torquey. You're going to be able to take a lot of material off because of the higher torque seen with the 4.5-inch angle grinder. The other big benefit with this is it's familiar. We've been using 4.5-inch angle grinders in the field for strain gauge application for years. Now, the big cons on the 4.5-inch angle grinder are really the opposite of the benefits to the right angle die grinder. It's going to be bulky, which is more difficult to travel with and harder to use. It's not going to be able to get inside of those difficult areas or those tight spaces. And it's going to take off a lot of extra material around the concentrated area we're trying to hit. You can see in this testing that it's taking that material off so fast, but it is taking off a lot larger area of paint than what is needed. Now, it did take some finishing finesse work in order to get the steel surface to the same condition as the right angle die grinder got right away. You had to really touch the steel very lightly with that angle grinder to get a nice, consistent, smooth surface. So all in all, I think this was a good comparison. Okay, so what's the verdict? I think my coworker has a point. The angle grinder was super convenient to use. It didn't have a lot of the wasted material removal, and it really left a nice finish. At the end of the day, the angle grinder was a lot quicker. However, it had a lot of extra material that you were taking off. The result did not look as nice. And I think we're going to go with the right angle die grinder. I will say the 4.5-inch angle grinder with that little bit of finesse towards the end got me a much smoother surface finish, which might be beneficial. So maybe we'll leave one 4.5-inch angle grinder in the kit, but I think the majority of the time we're probably going to move to the right angle die grinder. But overall, good test.